Hi guys, it's episode 8 of Good Grief. I'm Rosie. I'm back again.
I thought you were going to let me say amazing.
Oh, sorry. I'm Rosie,
Amazing.
and together we are
Good grief.
Rosie Amazing.
Oh.
So following on from the amazing John's episode last week, I hope I can fill his boots. I haven't got as many facts. Maybe I do. I don't have as many facts to spit, sorry. But I'll do my best.
Nice.
I won't even try, actually, to compete with John. But yeah, shout out to John. Sorry to say shout. Oh no, it's big up that we're not allowed to say,
Yeah,
isn't it?
shout out's fine.
Shout out to John. And I hear you've got a shout out as well.
I have got a shout out. We are very lucky to have a new board. For those on YouTube that are watching, you can see it just above Rose's head. But it was created by the incredible Love Kitty Boards. So yeah, thank you for Kitty for making that, because it is honestly amazing. And it just encapsulates everything we do at Good Grief. New episode every Sunday. There we go.
Yeah.
That will really hold us to it.
Yeah, it will, guys. If we're not here on a Sunday, point us in the direction of that board. So today we are talking about lessons in loss. Lessons of loss. Just lessons as a result of loss.
Yeah.
Disclaimer, because we love a disclaimer. This is completely, this is just how we feel as two grieving ladies. People might feel very differently to us. People might agree with us. It's just shedding light, because some things you feel, you might think, oh, no one else feels this way. And then you might listen to this and go, they feel this way.
Yeah.
And we can probably guarantee that a lot of other people feel those ways as well. So, Maisie, where would you like to kick it off with the lessons in loss?
I think we I guess with like this episode we wanted to highlight, I don't want to say positives of grief because that just sounds shit. Like, oh, thank God Vince died, because I've had so many positives in my life since. No, obviously, just, yeah, grief is the hardest thing you'll go through in whatever capacity that is. However, we do want to put a bit of a spin on it and talk about the things that we've learned, because I must say, I lost Vince 6 months ago, and the growth that I've been through in the last 6 months is bigger than anything I've ever done in my last nearly 26 years of life. So I feel like I've learned so much about myself, so much about relationships, so much about those around me. So I think although it is, such a heartbreaking, difficult thing to go through, you do learn a lot. And I guess there is, I feel bad saying positives, but you do see, things that are brighter in some ways.
Yeah, it's essentially like it's not a light at the end of the tunnel, because the tunnel doesn't end, but there's a light. So that's great. I think for me, like, the biggest thing, it took me some time obviously to get to that point, but I think the way I've matured emotionally is crazy. I was 22 when my dad passed away, and I think obviously I wasn't emotionally mature at that point. I hadn't really lived in a sense. Like, I was just like at uni just chilling, and then rubbish things happen and you kind of have to learn things about yourself that you never wanted to learn. No one wants to undergo the task of revising for how do I cope with losing my parent, or losing anyone big to me, or watching anyone suffer, or my family suffer as a result of loss. And you just naturally step up, don't you? I mean, I remember us talking really shortly after Vince died, and the majority of our conversations were how you were so worried about your immediate family, and you kind of just like stepped into this new role that, like, obviously I'd never seen from you. I mean, like,
sorry,
and
the D-boys just entered the chat.
D-boy, would you like to say something about your mummy? D-boy's the cat, by the way, I've just realised. Yeah. He wants to go in the cupboard, but the cupboard's closed right now. But no, I think you took on roles that, you didn't think you'd have to. I did the same. Every person that's lost someone has, because you've always think you've got to do something to fill that void, in a sense. It's not just like escaping sadness, but like, making sure that everyone else is all right. And how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think I completely agree with you. I think you do have to, I guess you move into new roles in your life. I never thought that I would necessarily have to look after my mum to a degree, and I don't, because she is an incredible, independently strong woman. However, in those first few weeks, I felt I had to step up, like you said, and look after her in the sense that emotionally she needed some support. Well, a lot of support, understandably. Oh my God, sorry, Devo is really distracting.
Do you ever do this?
Yeah, come on, boy. But yeah, anyway, just ignore him.
He doesn't get it.
No, he doesn't. You're kind of interrupting something here. It's really important. But yeah, I just feel like in terms of the growth that I did, I learned a lot in myself. As I said from the outset, you learn a lot about resilience. You learn more about relationships with people, so how kind of strong those relationships are, and how to navigate in difficult times. I mean, I can say me and my mum have been through some difficulties. You know, when I was younger, it was just me and her growing up. We had a lot of money issues, but I have never gone through something so hard with her. So you learn how to navigate those relationships, how to communicate more with each other, how to lean on each other when you both need it so much. So yeah, I think that was an interesting thing. I think it definitely brought us closer, and my God, we were so close anyway, but now we're incredibly close. I mean, I think she's called me about 11 times today. I'm like, what do you want now, Mum? Come on. She's like, guess what the dog did?
She's so sweet and a very strong woman. It's really interesting that you say that, because I think one of my lessons in loss is that I've seen a side of like my mum as well, because me and my mum actually fell out after my dad passed away, and it was because I did, I'm not going to say I did the wrong thing, but I didn't grieve in a very healthy way, I suppose. I didn't grieve. And, you know, my mum had lost her dad literally days before her husband died. And it was just a really messy time. Two completely emotionally ruined people trying to navigate their own relationship. And it was just impossible. And yeah, I think like recently, not recently, it's been a few years now, but I've been able to like completely flip my own script and think, wow, like my mum was really going through that just as much as I was.
Yeah.
I was looking for sort of the parent to like tell me that I was doing well, when really neither of us were, you know. And you learn about yourself, how gentle you should be with other people in those moments, and you learn about other people in those moments in the sense that they're not going to give you the right signals. Like, you know, losing someone is so complicated emotionally, because some days you feel fine, and you'll present yourself as fine, but you're actually a million miles away from being fine, but no one would know it. And I think that's why that relationship became quite fragile, because I just assumed I was my mum. She sorts everything out.
Yeah.
And when you realise, you know, you can take yourself out of those your own shoes and like the comfort zone that you've got, and you realise, wow, like I'm glad that I can see sort of a new perspective, in the sense that like it's my mum's first time living too.
Yeah.
You know, she's gone through something really terrible. And it's changed. It's not just, you know, mine and my mum's relationship I'm going to highlight. It's my relationship with everyone. Like, in ways that I will step up for people more, I'll also step back more. I think
boundary setting, you learn a lot of that, don't you?
Hugely. And I think it's like you need people around you that you know are going to be able to support you through really ugly times and really good times. And unfortunately, like, the ugly times don't stop because you hit a certain time in your grief cycle. Yeah. Like, they're with you forever because you're always hurting. And you can never really truly navigate, I think, grief to sort of like the, you know, 100%, because you're always a bit broken. Yeah. And I think that's something you learn. You learn how to live alongside it rather than trying to cure it.
Yeah, I think as well, like, to highlight, because your mum is incredibly strong like mine, and I think sometimes I forget what my mum's going through, because she might have presented better on a certain day. Not that I think she's over it by any means, because I know it's a constant struggle, but sometimes I'm like, oh, she's having a better day, and I might forget like what she is going through. And I guess it's the same as us, you know, to our friends and partners and whatever. Sometimes we might come across stronger because we might be having a better moment, day, week, whatever it is. But actually, that doesn't mean you're not constantly carrying that weight that will forever be with you. So yeah, I think it's important, like, I don't know. It's just difficult. As you've said, it's a treacherous path, grief, and it's important to remember that although some people might be better on certain days, it is so up and down all the time. The other thing I found with growth is that I just feel like you become more attentive, like you've said. I think you're more in touch with your own emotions, first of all. You know a lot more about yourself. I know when I'm about to get upset, or if I am, not always, but I feel like if I am upset, I know usually what I need to do with myself, whether it's be with friends or whether I just need to take myself off on my own. But also you're more in touch with other people's emotions because, first of all, I mean, hopefully you talk more about it like we're doing. But equally, you learn a huge amount of empathy because you know how low rock bottom is. So you kind of put yourself in other people's shoes and aware of the fact that other people have deep struggles as well.
I think another thing with that is that, like, what has helped me quite a lot is that if I was going through this, so I mean, obviously I've been through grief. I can say that I've not been through sort of traumatic grief like you've been through, but you try and put yourself in someone else's shoes, and sometimes it's impossible to do that because how the hell am I going to know how you're feeling? It's it's sometimes it's not worth thinking about. It's terrible, but by emotionally maturing in the sense of like I've lost someone and I know that like the normal signs of someone's behavior like aren't there, like you know that you can say like she's not having a good day today, like we could go and do this to spin it around, or like just checking in. I mean, we went for a walk the other morning and I wanted to check in because it's really weird. I feel like when it first happened, we were always like, are you all right, Maz? Have you had lunch today? Are you all right, Maz? Have you been to the toilet today? How much water have you drank today? And it's that's not sustainable because it's just not, because it's the same as like, you don't wish someone happy birthday forever. It's, do you know what I mean? It all just fizzes out. But we went for a walk and I just wanted to make sure even before we went, like, and it was really weird. I was thinking to myself, like, how do I say, like, are you all right now? Like, do you know what I mean? I just went, how are you dealing with things? Because it's learning how to put yourself in someone else's shoes. And I think that's a huge lesson, being more attentive, knowing, this person, as we literally just said, you're presenting fine, but are you okay?
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't want to answer that. Sometimes you're like, no, I am fine. It's just tough. And, that's something you learn how to sort of navigate from there. But, yeah, just open communication. I think another thing is that, like, I don't like to leave things unsaid.
Yeah.
My dad passing away wasn't sudden, but it does make you think, like, did I wish that I could have said that to him? Do I wish at the time that I did something? I mean, John said last week that, living with regrets is completely pointless pretty much. And you try not to do that, but also you think, as John said, how can I make sure that I don't put myself in a situation of feeling regret? And I think that being able to, like, just check in and like not go the extra mile, but like just don't leave things unsaid.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with what John said. Regret is a wasted emotion. However, the people in Vince's life who left things not necessarily on an argument, but they weren't kind of on the best of terms, have really struggled because they feel like that last conversation they had with them was like the result of their relationship, and that's all it kind of stood for. But a reminder for anyone who might have been in that situation where you felt like you'd said the wrong thing and then they passed, what you need to remember is if they could see anything before they die, I don't know how it works when you die, no one does, but let's say if life does flash before your eyes, they're not going to remember that one conversation. They're going to remember the years, the happiness, the laughs, the love that you had together, rather than the negatives. Because I feel like, getting spiritual, but I do really think that when you are dying, the things that you remember are the highlights of your life, not the negative things that happen. So, that's what I said to that person. But I know it is really hard for them. And yeah, just again, to echo what John said, it's just so important to not leave things on an argument, not go to bed unhappy. Just always remember that that last moment you have with someone could be the last. And I hated to think like that, but now I've had Vince ripped away from me and I can see how that can be. it just makes it so paramount that you just make sure every conversation's meaningful. And if you want to tell someone how much they mean to you, don't shy away from it. It's so important.
No, literally, and I do that like quite a lot. I mean, every time we're together, for example, it's like love you, and it's like I don't know if anyone's seen Ja'mie, but you know, when Ja'mie private school go, when they're literally going to lesson, and they're like, I love you so much, and it's like, to be fair, she had a good point. Maybe she's suffered grief before. Haven't asked her, Ja'mie, but yeah, no, yeah. I don't know what I'm thinking of Ja'mie.
Side note.
Yeah.
What program though?
What was interesting, what you said though, is the spirit, like this spiritual aspect of loss, because I think that some people bat away spirituality. I think I probably did before I lost my dad.
Same.
And I think that like the comfort that it brings is crazy. I don't mean like doing like smoke manipulation and like charging crystals. I mean more like, I don't know, for me it's like, I'm gonna forget, like walking. Me and Jan were just like in Warminster, and someone had painted a robin, on like just a white wall, and underneath it said "for Dad." And I always think of robins of my dad. I think you do as well. I think, is it like a signal? I don't know.
Yeah.
And the comfort it brings is like, it's almost like a hug from that person.
Yeah.
I feel like it with things of like, recently it's been blackberries, because me and my dad used to go blackberry picking, and I'll see a blackberry and I'm like, oh, that's like, he put it there. I mean, I don't think he planted that bush, but to me, in that moment, it feels like a little win. Like, I find a lot of comfort through sort of
signs,
getting in touch with signs.
Yeah, I think you do. Like, I was the same. I mean, I guess I was open to spirituality. I've never been a religious person, but I have always believed that there's something, like, not saying a god or a higher power, but I do think like your body doesn't die, your energy does live forever. I don't know what kind of that looked like, but yeah, since Vince died, I feel like I've been way more connected with nature, with signs, with things like that. If you remember, the first couple of weeks after he died, I think it was like 3 weeks after, we were sat in Cordero Lounge.
I was just going to say, please tell that story.
Yeah, it was so weird. So it was like us guys, Harry, Kat and Hugh, and our friends, and we were having dinner. We were talking, I can't remember what we were talking, we had conversations about Vince that night, because obviously it was so fresh and, you know, just open about it. And I was showing them something on my phone, and my phone slipped out of my hand, dropped on the table, and randomly started calling Vince. My phone has never, ever just started calling someone randomly before. The last time I'd called Vince was like, I don't know, like 2 months prior.
He wasn't even in the call log, was it?
He wasn't even on call log. It was so weird. And we all just like, literally just like mouth open, just stunned.
It was like a Paranormal Activity scene, because we were all just like,
it was,
what just happened? If you're there, give us a sign. Like, it was really weird.
It was really bizarre, but it gave me so much comfort. And I think, like, I don't know, my mum finds it with like deer, because my mum and Vince used to always walk up this woods, where his ashes will be scattered eventually, but it's near my mum's house, and they always used to walk the dogs there every day, and they'd sometimes see deer up there, and every time they would, they'd like squeeze each other's hands and be like, oh, a deer. And after he passed, the first few weeks mum went up there, she didn't see any deer, and she always talks to him anyway when she's up there, but she had a really, really bad day one day, and went up there and was like crying and said like, I just want to see a sign from you. And then she saw 2 deer that just literally stood like still, and the dog was like fascinated. The dog didn't even go for him, he was just like standing special, looking at them. So yeah, it's weird, like you do feel, you probably look for things a lot more, don't get me wrong, but I don't know, there's some things that happen that are just inexplainable, I feel.
Totally. And I think that something I've learned is that like there's no harm in embracing that side of life. Like, it gives everyone comfort. I mean, you speak to people that are grieving, or people that are grieving like a relationship or something, sometimes all you want is just to talk to that person. It might not even be a meaningful chat, it might just be like, are you all right? Do you see what I'm doing? Like, and then like the closest thing you can get, unfortunately, like, it's absolutely tragic, but sometimes it is a sign, and they mean so much more, like, you know, feathers, and I mean, that's not exactly spirituality, but you know what I mean. It's just, I think just like getting in touch with that side and exploring it a bit more, it can give you like a comfort that you wouldn't get from anywhere else. Yeah,
I've been reading a lot of books about spirituality, actually. One of them is by a lady called Mia Dolan, and she is is it psychic? Is that right?
Probably.
Yeah, psychic. Yeah, like someone who...
Yeah.
And I started reading a lot about grief after Vince died, because I'm sure all the listeners will agree. You try and do something, you don't know what to do, but you think like podcasts. Well, this podcast will help, no doubt. But
plug.
But yeah, I started reading different books. I read one which was really. I mean, obviously it is depressing, don't get me wrong, but it was too heavy. I was like, oh my God, this is so sad. And sometimes you want that escapism from reading to distract your mind. So I started reading Mia Dolan's books, and she's a psychic, and she talks about how everywhere in nature, all animals have a sixth sense or have the ability to kind of know beyond we do. Like animals are like cats and dogs, they always know stuff, don't they? And with humans, she strongly believes that we all do have a sixth sense, but we just haven't tapped into it. It's funny how D-Boy's just entered again.
D-Boy, do you know something?
He knows we're talking about sixth sense.
That would be so funny.
I know, I want him on the camera.
That's
See you
fine.
later, boy. But yeah, so I feel like she spoke about how humans can do that, but they just don't tap into it because we've always been told that we can't. Especially in the Western community, it's kind of like people just think it's ridiculous, don't they? Whereas in a lot of other cultures, they believe in things like that. So I got a lot of comfort reading her books because she talks about, I think she lost her son really tragically. I'm pretty sure he was murdered. So it was really awful. And she kind of, since he passed, began to tap into her sixth sense. And she got a lot of comfort in then becoming a psychic, and it was just really interesting. And I feel like I would so be open to doing stuff like that, but I don't know how it works. If anyone's listening and they want to come on the pod,
yeah, please
turn us into psychics, then please do. But yeah, I think once someone passes, you are just so saddened by the fact that they're not here anymore that you want to believe that their energy is still alive. And I mean, Vince, Brian, both had such big energies that I just disagree with the fact that they're dead, as in their spirit. It can't be. An energy that big always lives on.
And it's weird, like we were saying, like I would never have believed that before. Like, like when people say, like, I mean, I've probably said it before about grief before I lost my dad, being like, he'll always be with you, and it's like, oh, he won't, but it's a nice thing to say. And then since I've been through grief on my own, I'm like, I have no doubt that like he's keeping tabs on me. I don't know how that looks. I don't know if he's a cloud in the sky with his face projected on it, or like
he might like Teletubbies.
Yeah, like he's just the sun, like yeah. Vince could be the moon. That's poignant.
That's like Bear in the Big Blue House. I don't know why I just keep coming up with children's programs.
Yeah. Check these out. We'll put a reading list below. But moons are a sign for you, aren't they? Like you said, we were talking about it earlier, and you said about the sky.
Yeah. I feel like the sky. I don't know. I don't know if it's moon specifically, but I just feel like I'm so much more interested in the sky now. And again, I'm not religious. I don't really believe that people, I guess they might go to heaven. I don't know. I don't know what happens to them, but I just feel like the sky, I'm so much more, just so interested in, and I just find it really more beautiful than I ever have before. And I just look at it a lot. And just when I'm talking to Vince, I look up to the sky because I just feel like he's there.
Yeah.
And I don't know, why, but that just feels right to me.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where are you?
Yeah, where are you? Show yourself.
Yeah. Oh god, that's too much. Oh god, but no, like I'd say as well, like loosely linking to signs. I think that like with the emotional maturity thing, and like. I feel for me, I was giving myself signals, like, even after I lost my dad, that I was going to be on the right path. And I know that sounds really weird to hear, but I mean, I've said, like, my relationship with my mum broke down, like, I was just not a very good functioning person, had no sort of emotional boundaries or anything. And at the time straight after I lost my dad, the way I acted then in that moment was not shameful, but I felt a bit like, why am I like this? And I think that sort of that behaviour, now I look back on it, now that I've learnt more about myself, and I'm like, no, I was actually spot on, like that was actually a fine thing to do. I think at the time I thought that I was being a bit selfish because I wasn't grieving like other people. I was like wanting to shut myself away and just get away from it by partying and doing things to excess, like unhealthy coping mechanisms, I guess. And no, that wasn't the right thing to do. But at the time, I just felt that like if I can just contain my sadness in one bit, in one piece, then it will just go away.
Yeah.
And it worked for me at the time. Is what I've learned now. That's a lesson in loss for me. Is that I look back now and I think, no, actually, like that was just a show of strength. In that moment, I knew I was at my lowest, and I somehow was able to think, what's best for me right now? I'm not saying drugs and alcohol are best for people that are grieving, but I was able to like compartmentalize like what I needed to explicitly address, what I wanted to put out there and say like the pain I was feeling, and what I was ready to just sort of pack away and revisit at a later date. Because with grief, like you don't have to be in a better place at any point, because I think it's sort of pushed this narrative that like, as time passes, like time's a healer. And I think like time is a healer in the sense that like you learn how to adapt to a new life that you never asked to adapt to. But it's not a healer. No. And you just end up learning like that in those moments when you're at your lowest and you thought that everything was ugly and dark. I now see that as a signal of strength from myself, because I'm like, sometimes I can't imagine how I would have dealt with it now. And I can imagine you're probably the same, even though you're obviously so early into your journey still.
Yeah.
You might have had some moments where you're like, how the hell did I get through that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like out of all the lessons I've learned in losing Vince, resilience and strength just like combats all, because I don't know, I don't want to say I lived a sheltered life before, because, I've had my fair share of troubles like everyone else has, but I never ever even imagined, I just didn't think I'd lose a parent young. No. I don't think anyone does.
No.
You just imagine having your parents until they're old. So I think, it didn't even come into my brain space that was even a possibility. So when it happened and I was given that phone call, I just thought that my life was literally ending. Like I just didn't know how the hell I was ever going to get through this. And I just think you learn that in the darkness you always find a way through, and sometimes in that moment you really don't think you'll ever do that, but looking back on it, I did, and I will continue to. And yes, there will be more moments that are dark and horrible, but at the moment the light outweighs the dark, and that's probably just because I'm having a better week, and sometimes the dark outweighs the light, but you do just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and you learn to unfortunately live with this.
I think what you said about like, 1 week being good and 1 week being bad is another lesson in itself, in the sense that like it is genuinely okay to have days where you can feel defeated and still be on a good path, on the right path. The right path doesn't look like being able to fully function after like loss or something. Like sometimes the right path is being able to feed yourself, or take the day off work and tell people that you just need some space, and that you like, sometimes that's the biggest win, because in the long run you'll look back and go, God, I'm so glad I did that. You're never going to regret taking care of yourself.
Exactly.
And I think it's learning that the moments from the outside that you would see as weakness were actually probably some of the strongest points of your life. That's so true. That's quite poignant.
I agree. I think like I went to Boomtown last weekend, and it was the 6-month anniversary of Vince's death on the Saturday, and I knew it was going to be a hard day, and I woke up realising it, and I felt alright all day, and then it hit me later in the evening, and I was an absolute mess. And I wasn't a mess, but I was just emotional. I was just a really, really emotional, and I was sat on the grass with Kat, my sister-in-law, and my friends all came up to me and hugged me and stuff like that. And I thought to myself at that point, God, I probably look like such a state right now. But actually, looking back on it, all my friends coming up to me and telling me like how strong I was, to them, I looked incredibly strong, because they knew what I was going through and how hard it has been to navigate these times.
If If you're feeling overwhelmed, anxious, or disconnected, you're not alone. I'm Dan Roberts, an internal family systems therapist and trauma healing specialist. I create guided meditations to help you reconnect with your inner calm and compassion. These practices are rooted in internal family systems therapy and are designed to support your healing journey, whether you're new to therapy or have been on this path for a while. You can find my full collection of meditations at danroberts.com or on Insight Timer.
I think it's so important, and something that, every person that has grieved, unfortunately, will learn, is that, like, there isn't a time limit, and you shouldn't set any boundaries on yourself, because, yeah, like, 1 year anniversaries are bad, and sometimes you'd think that a 1 year anniversary is worse than a second year anniversary, but who's to say that? Who's to say anything? We shouldn't categorize, like, I should really be getting on with it now, it's been 5 years. But it's like, we know how quick time goes. Like, no time going past is going to erase what you've been through and the love you have. Like, the love never goes, which is why I now put so much love out there, because I'm just like, I want people to, like, why have, like, negative voids, like, everywhere? Like, let's just have it all positive. I think that, like, you said earlier about, like, arguing and, like, just putting out ugly things. It's like, why don't we just all be nice, guys?
Yeah, exactly. Be kind to each other. I think, like last episode, we need to stop saying like, by the way. I think we've done about 10 in the last 10 minutes. Yeah, John came on last episode and he spoke about how the kind of standard grieving journey is 6 months to 2 years. And I did ask him afterwards where that came from, because I was interested, because as we've always said, grief is not linear. There's not really a time aspect to it. And he said that's kind of just average from research. However, that doesn't take into consideration all the outside factors that come into play with grief. And he sat there last week and cried over the death of his sister that was 20 plus years ago. So I think that really signifies the fact that grief will always stay with you, and it will probably just change shape over time. Doesn't mean that after 5 years, 10 years, you're going to feel better. No. You'll always feel pain, but you will learn to live with it. But yeah, actually, on the fact of Boomtown, I was talking to a friend called Will, shout out, but he lost his dad when he was in secondary school. So it's probably over 10 years ago now. And we had such a good chat about grief. He had such a great outlook on it. And he said to me, like, Maze, you're so lucky. And I was a bit like, well, all right. Yeah, hang on a minute.
Cheers.
But he was like, you're so lucky that you are surrounded by so many lovely friends. You're able to openly talk about it with such strength and courage. And he was like, isn't that beautiful? And I was like, yeah, that is amazing.
It actually is.
But he just had such a great outlook. He's lost his dad, he's lost lots of friends, and he just was saying, I'm grateful for the journey I've been on with grief, as awful as it's been. He was like, I have never felt more connected to people in all my life, to my friends, to my family. He said, he's such a lover. He always tells people exactly how he feels about them. And he was like, I wasn't like that before. And I just thought, what a amazing perspective to have. Like, be more Will.
Be more Will. That's what we should call this episode, to be fair. To be fair. No.
That's the only one you've done.
I bet Will wouldn't say to be fair all the time. But also, I think, like, on that note as well, these things do take time. I categorize my own grief as sort of like pretty ugly at the start.
Yeah.
I never spoke about it because I was young and the people that I was with at the time were young, and sometimes for people that aren't myself, emotionally mature, like, you just don't think, why I don't want to be a party pooper. I don't want to talk about death. Like, I don't want to make everyone so sad. And I'd say that, like, it does get to a point where it catches up to you. Like, you start grieving properly when you realise that there is always an opening to talk about this person and most importantly, your feelings. And I think that sometimes, you know, when whether you're new into grief or whether like newly into your grieving journey, or whether you're feeling like anticipatory grief, which is what John was talking about last week, like I said like again, it's killing the mood. It's killing the mood. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, but also it's okay to believe that there's not.
Yeah.
I think that like we've both been in situations where like I call it ugly because that's the only reason. That's how it made me feel. It made me feel.
It is though.
Really,
let's be honest.
It's brutal. It's ugly, and those shows of strength at the time, they don't feel anything like it, and it's not easy to listen to things, you know, being like, oh, it's, you know, you're lucky to have like people around you and stuff like that, because it's true, but also you have to be able to open the door to that in the first place, and sometimes that, well, most of the time that doesn't come straight away, because the last thing some people want to do is try and have a conversation with people that might only be able to offer sympathy or might only be able to offer sort of maybe their experiences, and sometimes you don't want to hear that, you're not ready to hear it. And I think that another lesson is that you're always right. The way you feel in grief is always right. Whether that's I'm feeling a bit self-destructive and I need to just take myself out of things for a bit. You feel that way for a reason. Something really awful has happened to you and you've experienced the highest level of sort of emotional trauma. Cut yourself some slack. And then one day you'll turn the page and go, God, that was a really tough time in my life, but look where I am now.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's your podcast.
I think for people who are supporting people grieving, a lot of the time when you have conversations with them, you've just spoken about opening up and how challenging it can be, and obviously just really want to encourage anyone to talk about it. But sometimes the natural thing to do is when someone opens up about losing their dad, mum, whoever it is, the first questions that is asked is, how did they die? You don't always want to hear that. Because I don't want to just associate Vince with death.
No.
They are a person before they died. So I really like it when, if I say, you know, my dad's died, someone saying, tell me about him.
Yeah.
What was he like? You know, actually, because that person was such an important figure, whoever that is to you. And it's about keeping their memory alive, not the way they pass. And obviously you can open up about that, but I think sometimes that's always the question that's led with. And actually it's good to kind of, if you don't know who that person is, like ask more about them, because as grievers it's so important to just keep that memory, you know, forever. Keep their energy alive, talk about them. I love talking about Vince because he impacted my life so significantly, and he was genuinely just such a hero. So,
and on that, the thing is, like, why would anyone want to talk about a cause of death?
Yeah,
you know, especially you know, someone in your own position where it's like something completely tragic and out of the blue. And you know, you're letting your guard down, and you're saying, you know, I feel like shit, and then someone goes, tell me about that really traumatic time of your life and tell me how terrible it was for that person. But all you want to hear is, not even a you were right, just as you said, like, what were they like? Like, oh, like, or even like, sometimes I find comfort in like, oh, how long has it been? Because I'm like, you get to tell your story, like, oh, I've managed to come over this, and this, and now I'm this far in. But no, you're totally right. I don't want to label my dad to cancer. You don't want to label Vince, like, it's, I want to talk about grief. I don't want to talk about death. I think it's two very different things. Yeah,
very true. I mean, it's treacherous, don't get me wrong. It's you tiptoe around people who are grieving a lot because you don't know what to say, and a lot of the time everything you say would be wrong because it's just difficult. But I think it's just important to have those conversations in mind, you know, lead with the conversations about them as a person rather than associate it to how they passed. Is there anything else you feel like you've learned that we haven't covered?
Oh God, there's probably loads of things. I think it's just like learning about how much you can actually deal with. I think before my dad died, I'll take it back to before he was ill, because I mean that was really terrible. But I thought that like the hardest thing I went through was like being dumped in year 9. Like genuinely, like that was heartache. And like, I'm not saying it wasn't it sounds so stupid, but you know, in those moments, like, or like going broke at uni, I spent all my student loan in the first week. Like, how do I buy food? And like, they're really like almost comforting worries to have, because then when you get hit with like death, you have to get over this. It's like, oh my God, like, how is little old me gonna get over something that you assume, like, you don't want to lose a parent. A parent doesn't want to lose a child. You don't want to lose anyone in this world.
Yeah.
And when it hits you, whenever that may be in your life, learning about you and things that you had no idea that you had in your locker is as beautiful as it is ugly.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, actually. I feel like, as we've said numerous times, grief and the journey of grief is up and down, but it's also so awful but so beautiful. Not only are you going through the biggest heartbreak, the darkest times, but also surrounding all of that pain is the love you had for that person, and that is why it's so painful. You're reminded of all the beautiful memories, how kind, how genuine, whatever their relationship was to you, and that's why it's so insufferable, because it just reminds you of the love that you had. So yeah, it's a weird one. It is such a weird one, but yeah, I think you just learn so much about yourself, and that's probably the biggest lesson in loss, just the growth that you have after that happens.
No matter how it looks.
Yeah.
No matter how it looks, because sometimes it looks like an amazing show of strength, and sometimes it will always look like an amazing show of strength, but sometimes it just is shutting the blinds and calling it a day.
Yeah, exactly.
Being a mess, drunk, crying. You know, all these things, they're part of a journey.
Yeah.
I'm not going to come up with some puzzle piece sort of like...
Really? That's unlike you.
Yeah. But no, yeah, I'm sure that we'll be able to do a Lessons in Loss episode in 10 years' time, because it's a complete, you know, we're always learning more about ourselves, combating this horrible but beautiful journey together.
Yeah, love that.
Wow.
Should we talk about what's coming up on the pod?
Yeah.
I can't guarantee like what next week's episode is. We've got loads of ideas flowing, but we don't know what's happening first. But we'll say what's going on. So, firstly, we're going to get our friend Hugh on, because he tragically lost his mum a couple of years ago. Probably a few years ago now, actually. Yeah. Anyway, he'll talk. He'll tell us all. But he lost his mum quite similarly to Vince, so it was unexpected and suddenly. And I think it's really important to get a male, a man,
The man.
the man on here, because obviously we've had John, but this is coming from two girls, and as we know, you know, men navigate things very differently. So we really want to get him on, get his thoughts. We're also going to have my friend Susie from work. Well, I say from work, we're more than work friends now. We're friends. We're life friends. But she was diagnosed with Lyme's disease last year and was out of work for, I think, coming up to 10 months. She's only recently gone back part-time. So an interesting episode about how she kind of grieved her past life. She actually got it when she came back from her honeymoon, so it was a really shit time to have that diagnosis, and I mean, it completely changed her life. She's only just going back to doing normal things again, so I thought that would be a really interesting app. And we've also been really lucky to have had so many people reach out to us and actually want to be on the pod, which is amazing.
Which is so cool. Like, yeah.
It's so exciting.
On the pod.
Yeah, so we've had a few people that have reached out and spoken about their own experiences. So yeah, a few other guest people coming down the line. We're going to try and change up the garage look.
Yeah.
We need to...
sitting on the shelf.
Yeah, I'll sit up there. But yeah, we want to try and basically have us both on. It was nice having me just with John, because I know him 20 years ago, but we want to make sure that we're both on, because we come as a duo, don't we, Rose?
We do.
But yeah, so some exciting things. And as always, open to any ideas, feedback, if you want us to cover a certain topic. If you want to come on, let us know.
And if you don't agree with some things, like, that we say, like, yeah. I'm so fascinated about other people's, because, like, I'm not saying what I say is, like, gospel sort of thing, but, like, I really want to know, like, I felt completely different to that.
She just wants a debate.
I do. Come sit, question time.
No, I definitely think it's important, like you say, everyone's journeys are different and everyone's perspectives are different, so if you felt different to something we've said, like, let's hear about it.
Let me know.
But yeah, as always, just want to say thank you to the wonderful audience. Hope you're enjoying it so far. And yeah, thank you again for listening.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Love ya.
Love ya.